Hey everybody, it's me, and I'm back with another home bartender video for bartenderatlas.com. Now, as you probably already know, Bartender Atlas is this great site that has profiles of bartenders from around the world. They do reviews of cocktail books, they do recipes for cocktails, and features like this one. It's almost the holidays, and I thought I would do a video about entertaining at the holidays, about batching cocktails, about keeping your guests happy and things like that. But before we get into it, let's cut to some very not bartender or cocktail themed B-roll. Let's go. As you can see, I'm not in my regular location. I'm actually at Walt Disney World with my family, which also explains why my voice is kind of shot, so apologies for that. You know, at first I thought doing a video about cocktails and bartending at Disney didn't make any sense, but then I realized it makes perfect sense. This is a place that's designed around hospitality and customer service and making sure that everybody has a great time. And that's really what bartending is about. You know, a few years ago, everybody seemed to want to be a mixologist. The term mixology was this big thing. Really, anyone can be a mixologist. Mixology is about making drinks. It's about precise ingredients and ratios. And if you have enough books and enough time, anyone can do that. Anyone can learn to make a great drink. But bartending is way more than that. And I actually take the fact that I'm called the home bartender really seriously. I know it's just a sort of a shorthand moniker so you know what these videos are about, but being a bartender is not just about making great drinks. It's about knowing who wants to be talked to and who wants to be left alone. It's about who needs some water, who's ready for another drink and who isn't, when it's time to refill your ice and make sure all your ingredients are prepared and ready for the next rush of people. It's about knowing who wants a drink made exactly the way they want it and who's open to interpretation. And these are things that some people I think are a little more predisposed to, but also it's something that you learn over time by actually doing it, by being behind a bar, by observing people. And sure, making drinks is part of that, but it is not all of it. And I think the same applies for making drinks at home. Treating your personal guests at home like a bartender would at a bar is really important. It's about hospitality. It's about making sure everyone has what they want, not just what you think they want. That's what I want to talk about today. You know, it's the holiday season, so you might have people coming over and you're going to be making them drinks. So I want to talk about some of the things that could make that experience really good for them and in turn really good for you. So maybe I'll find a drink somewhere and we can talk more. The place I wanted to go isn't open yet, but that's perfect because it gives me a chance to talk about one of the most important parts of hosting people at the holidays or at any time of year. And that's that drinking doesn't have to be key to everybody having a good time. Obviously this is a channel about making drinks and cocktails and all those kinds of things, but it's just as important to have non-alcoholic options to make sure people are drinking water, making sure people have a way to get home, and if they need to, having a place to crash at your place if that's what they need. You know, they should plan ahead and encourage people to do that, whether that's making sure they have a designated driver or a taxi or an Uber or whatever it is to get home. And I know that that's maybe a cliche, but I think people do forget about it, especially when going to people's houses. They're like, oh, I'll just have a drink or two, it'll be fine, maybe I'm not going far. But making sure that you do have those options for them if they want to take a break from alcohol, if they don't want to drink. You know, some people don't drink at all for various reasons, and that's totally fine too. They shouldn't feel ostracized from the rest of the party, the rest of the group, from having fun. And I definitely want to do a video about non-alcoholic drinks and how you can make those interesting and fun for people, because there's more and more options that way and more ways to be creative without alcohol. But yeah, having non-alcoholic options, including water, making sure people have a way to get home, or staying at your place if that's what they need to do to not get in an accident, to not get in trouble. That's part of what makes you a great home bartender, not just the quality of the drinks you serve. Okay, the most important thing about having people over and having a party or hosting people at a dinner is being part of it. You can be the bartender, but if you're not actually hanging out with your friends, then it's just kind of like you're working. So that's why squeezing your juices ahead of time is a good idea, making sure you have your syrups done. But the other thing you can do is you can actually batch entire drinks. So not just pre-squeezing ingredients to have them ready, but you know, maybe you want to have 2, 3, maybe even just one kind of like signature cocktail for the night. And all you really have to do is scale up the ingredients of something like, you know, say a Manhattan or a Martinez. Manhattan's pretty easy because it's 2 parts, bourbon or rye. I mean, classically rye, but works with bourbon as well, and 1 part vermouth. So if you just scale that up and scale up your bitters, you could even put like an orange peel or lemon peel in there to infuse for an hour or 2, and then strain that out. And the great thing about that is that because you've brought up the level of alcohol in the vermouth, it's going to keep a little longer, so you can actually batch that and just have it on hand to make drinks for yourself. Keep it in the fridge, keep it in a sealed container, but it'll last for a few weeks. The thing I would recommend though is actually diluting as you go. So don't just mix. You could just mix your ingredients in the bottle and then pour them over ice, stir them per cocktail. But what happens is because the drink has been in the fridge, so it's already cold, it's not going to dilute the same way as you're used to, because your base spirit usually not in the fridge and your vermouth was probably in the fridge. So you're kind of used to that. You'd have to stir a lot longer to get it to dilute to where you want to. So it's a good idea to maybe measure out 2 or 3 drinks at a time, stir those, then pour them in your bottle or wherever you're going to keep them in. You can do the same thing for sours or drinks that have citrus, but they're not going to last as long. I mean, that alcohol is going to keep that citrus a little longer, but really that's kind of like a 24-hour thing. Like you do that the day before, you can serve it the next day, but that drink's going to start to deteriorate. So that's not something you can do and just kind of keep around and have on hand. And then the other thing is a punch. And a punch is a classic drink style that's been around for a long time, and you can make these things look really beautiful in a bowl. You can put a giant piece of ice in the punch bowl so that it doesn't melt too quickly and dilute the drink too much. And that really frees you up to be with your guests, because they can serve themselves, have a little bit, have a ladle in there, you have some cups on the side. Of course, that's also a bit of a negative, because then you don't know how much they've had. There's a great book, I've only kind of leafed through it, I don't know it, but it's highly recommended, highly regarded, called Punch by David Wondrich. I'll link to it in the description below, and if you're interested in punches, check that out. It talks about them extensively, including recipes and the history, and do's and don'ts and things like that. They're a great way to entertain, but you do want to make sure that your guests are drinking in moderation, and it's a little harder to control that way. Now that I have my drink and I pretty much told you everything I know about batching drinks and serving guests, and some tips for how to keep them happy for the holidays, I am going to enjoy this beautiful day at Epcot. I'm gonna go find my family, and I'll be back to wrap this up a little later. Well, I didn't quite get to finish that video yesterday, and as you can hear, my voice has gotten a little worse. But what I wanted to say is that I think the most important aspect of being a bartender has to do with responsibility. It's the responsibility that you have to your guests to make sure everyone has a good time, and that responsibility doesn't end at the door. It extends to them getting home and making sure that they get there safely. And I take that responsibility pretty seriously, and I think you should too, or at least think about it in those terms. And as a home bartender, you have a benefit. Most of the people who are kind of come to your home are people that you know, and you know their likes and their tastes and the kinds of things that they may or may not want to do or do. And so you can be better prepared. So make sure, make them the fanciest drink that you've just came up with or learned, sure. But make sure you have all kinds of other things on hand, whether that's, non-mixed drinks or non-alcoholic drinks. And that way, everyone's going to have the best time, and that's including you. Because the whole thing doesn't end until really the next day, when you wake up and you look back on the memories of it. So, whether it's making sure that people have a way to get home safely or a place to stay until the next day when they can get home safely. Those are all important considerations. Let me know how your holiday entertaining goes, if you've made a punch or batched some cocktails or whatever you decided to do. I'd love to hear your stories. I probably won't see you again until the new year, at least not with one of these videos. So until then, happy holidays. Good luck with your holiday parties. And until I see you again, I've been your home bartender with a coffee today, and cheers.